It's February the 15th, 2024, and you know why we're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I'm Gerissar, a WoW esports aficionado.
Hello everyone, I'm TreesapJake, and I'm a real boy.
You're not a real boy.
I am, and I'm Pinocchio. I don't know where that came from, but it just made sense. It just made sense.
Did you happen to watch Shrek on the weekend? Just wondering.
You know what? Actually, I'm fairly sure that's where that. I was trying to think, where did that impression come from? Who was I trying to be? And I think you're right. It's Pinocchio from Shrek. I didn't watch it on the weekend. I think it's just internalized. I think I've just always got a little bit of Shrek in me.
I honestly, I don't think anybody wants to have a little bit of Shrek in them. That just sounds painful.
Shrek is love. Shrek is life, as the kids say.
Oh my gosh. Well, unfortunately, Big is not able to join us tonight. He had some other real life important things. So good luck to him. And we'll look forward to talking to him when he gets back next show. But in the meantime, I'm wondering, Jake, we don't have a guest or anything. So it's just me and you. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been up to in World of Warcraft first before we start getting into Neat Greed Pass?
Of course, yeah. I mean, this is the dynamic duo. I feel like we've done this many a time over the months, and I've grown quite accustomed to our one-to-one personalized interview of myself. No, I'm kidding. It's always lovely to have a nice little chat between the two of us. Although we, of course, do miss Big and his very intellectual and on point input. So. See a big miss. But what I've been up to in WoW, I mean, that's a very good question. I've been playing a lot of Warlock, and I think there's a big part of me that's always felt like I've sort of missed out by sort of playing sort of very off meta classes for a very long time. Like at the end of the day, I'm a ranged player. I always preferred to play ranged. I played melee maybe a little bit every now and then, but I always feel most comfortable on a ranged character, and I've always loved them. And I feel like Warlock is just always is something that I've wanted to play, but I never really kind of massively got into until really BFA. I didn't really have much time to kind of my spread was on various different things, and Shaman had always kind of been what I had kind of gone to. But I love Warlock, and I really enjoy kind of all three specs at the minute. And so I've been playing a lot of Destro, a lot of Demo and retail, which has been really fun and kind of pushing threes. I've sort of given up on solo shuffle. I'm finding that really grating at the minute. So that's kind of on the back burner. But also I've kind of stepped into classic. Now, not kind of the classic you're thinking of, not Season of Discovery or hardcore. I've actually gone back to original vanilla on the legacy servers. Yeah, honestly. And on a lot of those servers, they are jam-packed full of people. There are still people sitting installment on their characters on Classic, just chilling, doing raids and doing PvP and stuff like that. So it's insane. Honestly, like it's crazy the amount of people that are still playing that game. You just don't realize. You think everyone's playing like SOD, or they're playing, hardcore, or they're kind of like on Wrath Classic, or they're on retail. But actually, there are people spread across the entirety of the WoW options, and it's really awesome to see. So I've kind of been leveling. I think I've got my Warlock is level 50 on there, so it's kind of been a slow burn, but it's just something nice and chill to do when I sort of just have only like an hour and a half, and just want to relax. That's kind of what I've been doing. So it's been a really nice and chill time for me.
Nice. That actually sounds really awesome.
It
sounds like more fun than I've been having.
Well, what have you been doing?
That's a good question. So when I have time to play, for the most part, I've actually been running as many characters as I can through the dungeon to try and get that love rocket, because still don't have it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no! I think I got that last year.
Screw you. In fact, actually, there's been some listeners that have been posting and seeing that they got it. I'm like, I want this now, but whatever. I'm doing that, and then usually, in the last hour before I'm like, okay, done. I gotta go to bed, because real life comes real fast the next morning. I've been doing some PvP, all the unrated stuff. So I'll usually get in, do some epic BGs or some RBGs. I was doing some BGBs, doing the BG Blitz, which I really have enjoyed. I do find, and this is something I found on um, Warsong Gulch, especially. Uh,
Mhm.
Similarly in Twin Peaks to some degree, but I found on Warsong Gulch with how short the map is, um, because when I'm carrying, because I've been I've been doing a tank spec as Demon Hunter, so I'm carrying the flag, and
Yeah.
even if I stun, there's one time I was stunning, I had a Ret and a Warrior on me, and I try to get away from them, and even as I crossed the map, I almost got to our tunnel, and they're already back on top of me because they could mount back up. They dropped combat, mount back up, and they could catch up to me before I could even cross the map. Um, and I was dying because I didn't have a healer with me. So it's one thing I found with that. I feel like the mounted speed is just a little too fast. I think they need to tailor it down. So that's one thing I definitely felt, and but I have
Mhm.
been enjoying it, learning it, and I feel like I'm I'm to the level of competency playing as a demon hunter, at least in low level. I'm actually feeling confident enough that I could probably hold my own in a BG or even go into RBGs as a demon hunter. So that's pretty much what I've been building up to, and I feel that. And then yeah, other than that, just mess around on alts. Sometimes I go into Emerald Dream and do some stuff, but nothing major. I don't know. The PvE story has felt pretty cool, but nothing has been really dragging me into these extra zones, like these dreams and all the stuff that dropped over these past little sub patches. So I'm just really hoping. I'm waiting for 10.3 to drop in the new season. That's really all I'm waiting for.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's I think it's really interesting talking about the RBG side of things, where how you kind of cross map all the way and then you still get caught by them. I think that's maybe something to do with the way that their mobility works. Like
Mhm.
they have there are so many gap closers now that that warrior probably like has double leap and double leaped across, then mounted up. So by the time you're kind of like running because you got the flag, they're just already there on top of you again. And that's
Mhm.
kind of sad. Like that is a sad thing that you've kind of done an outplay and that you're still getting caught. And that I think is unfortunately uh, the issue with the increased mobility that has been creeping every single expansion, and I think will probably only get worse, which is a shame. I think the mobility should be slowed down in general.
Mhm.
We should go back to some kind of base stuff. But anyway, I think that is a something for another time because it could go into that for ages.
It is. I will admit with BGB though, it becomes that dice roll. Do I go by myself and the two healers are in the main team, or does one of the healers split off and try to help me? But then that team is fighting against the enemy team, which has double healers, so they're never going to kill anything, right? So I I think maybe I should have done what I should have done is change my strat instead of just trying to solo it, go and meet with my main team, and then probably would have been safer. But I thought I could get across the map fast enough, which I found out I could not. But that's okay. Speaking of things that I can do and can't do, though, why don't we talk about your need, greed, and pass and see what you got going on that time in there?
Mhm.
As soon as I catch up to myself and actually do the bumper, because I was not ready for my own
You
transition.
could
Here we
do it.
go.
This likely won't be a clean fight, so keep your distance, eh?
You think I'd be prepared for my own transitions?
You'd think so, but I don't think anyone's prepared for their transition.
I was not prepared.
You were not. You were not. You were sadly one of the brave souls that attacked the Black Temple.
Well, how about this, Jake? Why don't you tell us what your need, greed, and pass is this week?
Yeah, of course. I had a little think. I had to think outside the box. Had a little bit less time than usual because it was Big's go this week, and I was kind of sitting there brainstorming, thinking, kind of, well, we're going to be talking about some things coming in with the War Within, and I was trying to think, okay, so we're going to talk about hero talents on the podcast today, and I was trying to think, okay, well, why didn't we keep it kind of topical? I always try and keep it topical. And I was trying to think, well, what about the other 2 expansions? Like, okay, we have hero talents. What about villain talents? What if we were given 2 opposing sides that we could choose from, and there were some sort of more darker, more sinister routes that we can go down, like a spread of potential, like in terms of player choice, right? Like, you got these hero talents to take you down a different path. What about villain talents to take you down a different path? Like a separate path that are meant to be darker, more kind of grim, of a choice that you've made on which side you kind of choose from. That'd be really interesting, an interesting narrative choice, because I know they are being very ambitious.
They are.
So who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, Chris, if you're listening, I'm free for ideas if you want to brainstorm. So anyway, these are the villain talents, and what I was thinking, instead of kind of coming up with an idea like some actual talents for it, I thought, what about an inspiration for said hero talents from a villain of WoW's past? Now, obviously, we've got Dark Rangers anyway, which is a kind of Sylvanas inspiration, but I've got some 3 options here. I think the first one is Garrosh Hellscream. I think in this instance, his sort of the rage, the fury of an orcish warrior, a warlord trained from birth, maybe potentially with how he gives himself into Usage, the kind of void powers from an old god, maybe something near the end of that, but kind of that is the inspiration of his character, sort of this sort of like behemoth warrior who is unstoppable. The next one is Kill Jaden. Now, obviously, I feel like Kill Jaden's a little bit more of a step up in terms of actual power, but this is sort of a sort of like master. I imagine this would be something for like a warlock, some sort of inspiration for like a demon, the apex demon above all, with all their the powers and the control and the seduction and the sedition and all that sort of fun stuff from Kill Jaden. And then finally, I thought, who better than the Lich King himself? Maybe in all iterations, taking something from Ner'zhul, taking something from Arthas, and maybe something from Bolvar as well. The iterations of the Lich King that have existed, and kind of channeling that. I know that there's a lot of abilities from the original Wrath of the Lich King, final boss. I know a lot of that has been taken, like Remorseless Winter, Defile, that kind of stuff has been taken, but some maybe more different aspects of that, the way that you entrap souls and other things like that, maybe something along those lines. Obviously, I'm not a game dev, I'm just kind of thinking of some idea, but those are the 3 options I thought that would be really cool to kind of take from, and which ones, maybe if we just think about the characters themselves, which ones we might need, which ones we might greed, and which ones we might pass on. Hello.
My microphone cut out. Oh no. Can you hear me now on stream? Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can. Yes. Sorry, I've just been quiet the entire time
No
because I couldn't hear
worries.
you.
Okay. Oh, nice. Apparently, NVIDIA's RTX voice decided to crap out middle as I was talking. Well, poopies. That,
Maybe re-say it for me.
yeah, okay. Well, that sucks. Here, hold on. I need to record the time on that because that's gonna 6:21. Anyways, okay. So it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. Definitely tough. I think so. Going back to it, yeah. So hard conversation, hard decisions. I definitely feel like Lich King is a Death Knight idealisms. Kill Jaden. I think both Warlock or Demon Hunter. It could be used for both. And then also like Garrosh because that void magic that even before you went into it, I was already thinking about Garrosh at the end of Mr. Pandaria and all that stuff. So that's an interesting thing that this is tough. I want them
I know.
all. I want them all. Okay. I'm gonna pick Garrosh. I'm gonna pick Garrosh Herald Scream. I like that idea, the warrior rage. I like the idea of like, dark magic that can also influence Shadow Priests as well, with that chaos void magic. And yeah, so I'm gonna pick Garrosh. I like that idea. As much as I know we don't like the micro CCC, we talk about how micro CC is adding to the game and tentacly stuff. I mean that's gripping, that's pulling. Again, it's more micro CC. I do like that wacky stuff though. I know it's annoying sometimes, but it also adds like some fun wacky gameplay stuff. So I think that's what I'm gonna need on. And then greed. Oh, I'm going to greed on Kill Jaden only because of my Warlock heart. I need to have that. Um, I'd love to see some Kill Jaden. See. Yeah. I'd love to be able to transform it. Well, actually, not that I actually played Demo and did the actual demon transformation stuff, but I know there's lots of people out there that love Warlock and miss that. So I'd love to see that come back to the Warlocks. So, yeah. And then I'd have to pass on Lich King. I feel as much as Lich King brought some pretty cool stuff, I feel like as Lich King, it's done. It's old. It's been that stuff been recycled and all that. I I would only lean back towards Lich King if it was more the jailer because of all the runes and the power that apparently the jailer had that had been transferred via Ner'zhul and all that to to Arthas to become the Lich King. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that'd be more jailer stuff than actually Lich King.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it. I think for me, I'm going to need on Kill Jaden. I think there would be something really interesting about succumbing to the fell and really, channeling the destructive nature of that, and the way that the kind of like almost becoming like a big boss yourself, and kind of the way that you summon I mean, we already have that with demonology, like you're already summoning legions of demons. Maybe changing the gameplay and making it sort of like bigger demons, like you have like a pit lord pet and it's upgraded and it hits, and then you can kind of summon other small pets, or even as a destruction warlock you kind of bring back cataclysm, for example, other things like that, other spells like that kind of have this sort of like really cool interaction.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a really interesting kind of thematic way of doing it, giving the player a choice within an MMO in order to do those sort of things. So I think that would be a really interesting way of kind of coming at it. I think, as like you, I'm kind of, you you've got you might want to kind of like, I want to focus on my warlock, and so Kill Jaden is as an interesting concept as a as a pathway. I mean, you could have three there. You could literally do Kill Jaden, Archimonde, and then I don't know, Kael'thas or something or some other sort of bigger kind of villain as three options for representing three different specs, that kind of stuff. So I thought that would be really an interesting way of kind of looking at that angle. And
Mhm.
then I'm gonna greed Garrosh because in what I found interesting was the concept of a warrior that utilizes all means necessary to attain their goals. So as you say, like kind of giving into that void corruption, almost like a combination between that shadow priest and warrior. Maybe not giving them range spells, and maybe not making them like DKs, but having some abilities that lash out with magic damage as a means of getting past. Something like a rogue that uses evasion, for example. There's some
Mhm.
interesting sort of concepts there, and I'm obviously not like advocating for everyone to have sort of magic damage, but everyone seems to have magic damage anyway.
Mhm.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of giving them something a sort of mix depending on which path they go down. And then finally, I'm going to pass on Lich King. Now, the only reason why I'm passing on Lich King is because I agree. I do think that there has been a lot of their aspects taken and put into the game already. What I would say is that when I imagine, like when I'm passing on the Lich King, I'm not passing because it's like I wouldn't like that. I think it's more that the other options are kind of cool. They were the ones that I thought were the coolest. And with the Lich King idea, it would be Nezul, something like the
Mhm.
way that Nezul whispers and kind of puts all the pieces of the chessboard together, and that kind of domination magic that kind of came with having Frostmourne and the Helm of Domination, that kind of stuff. So that kind of concept is really interesting with the rune magics. I mean,
Mhm.
you could even interchangeably like changing with the jailer if you wanted to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the jailer that is very interesting. I think a lot of it was executed poorly, but a lot of it was
Yeah.
really interesting. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that could be really really fun. So I think
I
that would be
totally agree.
those would be my choices. I think.
I like it. I agree. I actually think Jailer was could have been a way more complex character, but they didn't give him the depth. I feel like maybe it was in a book or something I didn't read, but video game wise, um, I guess similarly that Illidan really didn't get they weren't he wasn't really given the depth of uh in the Burning Crusade. Arguably though, uh Illidan had been part of the story well before that, so he had the depth versus yeah. I think um, I feel like there's something there in the jailer just being a brand new character that we miss that depth.
I think so, but I actually think more than anything, I just think they rushed it. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Shadowlands was rushed. I think they kind of rushed to get it all out, and they extended it with obviously COVID and everything being a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that was the kind of major issue of it all, is that there was all a rush and it was kind of a bit crazy, and it just didn't need to be that way. It just didn't need to go the way that it had gone. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if they'd kind of taken their time and relaxed a bit more and kind of really put the depth in there, the jailer could have had an interesting sort of story. I think
Totally.
a lot of the Shadowlands stuff was interesting. I remember playing through the zones first and thinking, wow, these are such beautiful zones with such interesting concepts.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great idea that just was executed poorly. So yeah, I think if you had a jailer themed, death knight that kind of, instead of sort of going down the Bolvar sort of like we are, or sorry, I guess the Darian Mograine sort of, we are the Knights of the Ebon Blade that have changed our view away from the Lich King and now aid the living, to someone that is fully on the track of domination and
Mm-hmm.
dominating to kind of help bring the void back into the world, that kind of stuff. That would be an interesting idea and concept.
Yeah.
So I think because I think they've already kind of put that sort of concept into the game by, I don't know if did you ever do the Sylvanas sort of loyalist side of things?
Oh hell no.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you didn't, but like that option is existed where you had unique
Yeah.
dialogue options and
Yeah.
lines that were if you had gone
No.
down that path. And I
I
feel like
I want to see that B word die at a stake burn.
okay, well, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But
Mm-mm.
regardless, that there it's already in the game, the opportunity for choices and dialogue to change. And I feel
Yeah.
like in an MMO, that's a really good idea. Now, could one swap away from being in those villain and hero stages? Absolutely, I think you can swap interchangeably. It simply is just a method and storyline in which you can kind of explore. And I think that what they should do is they should bring back, like the gold cost for swapping your allegiances and doing it like that way, because that meant that people kind of stay in a certain side of things if they want to. I don't know whether that works in the modern game though. I don't know, because that's kind of like a classic thing, like an old school of changing your talents requires gold. But I don't know. I don't know what you would do. Maybe you'd have to just go back to Chromie every single time and just swap the timelines or something like that. That would be a really cool idea. Swap the timelines.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, I found with Shadowlands, with that whole idea of trying to instill permanence and just the rage against that, and then adding any cost to changing up through permanence was again kind of. I don't think today's gamer will take anything like that. Um, the cost of changing seems unwanted by much of the player base. One thing that I came to my mind, and then we're going to move into the upcoming PvP events, thought is rogues, seeing how they live in shadow. If they were going to get something inspirational from Garrosh, or even like that whole using old god chaos is a way to counter a rogue into the shadows. So a rogue that's used Vanish, a rogue that's used Shadow Dance, a rogue that's used Smoke Bomb, that where they're concealed into the darkness, then um that anybody that has taken in that void energy of an old god can then see into the, and maybe still attack and damage a rogue while they are in the darkness, in the dark.
Yeah.
So because I feel
No,
that's the
it's
one
really,
thing that rogues have that nobody else has, is there's no way to damage them. Like I guess the only thing as close to that is uh a priest going into void form.
yeah, true. I feel like I will say that I'm a big fan of maintaining class identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes we kind of lose that a little bit. But I feel like the concept of hero talents is an interesting way of kind of expanding upon that. What I really don't want them to do is just disguise it. I don't want it to be borrowed power, basically. I don't want it to just basically be another form of borrowed power, because that's what it sounds like to me already. Already, it's a form of borrowed power. It's not an expansion of your talents. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like kind of going, okay, we've condensed what we've done in Dragonflight into kind of like bits and pieces. We've made certain things baseline, and here are some extra talents that you now have, that kind of thing. Like if they wanted
Yeah.
to do that, that's what they'd do, and they'd add like maybe one or two different things that were different talents that are kind of more capstone based. I feel like that would be an interesting way, kind of really slow down the pace of the game, because that's the thing that people really liked going from vanilla into Wrath. You had these capstones that pushed down, or they reworked some
Mm-hmm.
talents that kind of made the gameplay a lot better, that kind of cleaned up certain specs and classes, made it a lot easier to play certain things. And I think that's what they need to do with the talents here, not kind of create a whole new system. I feel like that just
Mm.
is kind of ridiculous. But I like the idea of it, and I understand the concept of it all. I just feel like it might be, playing a bit too much into that borrowed power idea. Like if we're then going to keep these hero talents, what goes on next, what happens in the next expansion, where do they go, what do they condense to, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, aren't we already heroes? Haven't we already been hero talented multiple times? Like, they've changed lots of things. So
Um. Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to find out. We'll have to see where this goes after the War Within. Before we get talking about the future, though, well, think that far in the future, why don't we talk about the upcoming PvP events, and we'll actually talk about the War Within.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
All right, upcoming PvP events. Pretty short list. It right now it's just official Blizzard events. So this weekend, actually starting tomorrow, is Group A for the Mythic Dungeon International. So if you are curious about that, WoW Esports Twitter. It's there's news articles over on Radar.io, as well as on the World of Warcraft news sites and a few other spots. Anywhere you consume your World of Warcraft news, if you will. So that's going to be Group A is going to be this weekend. Group B is going to start on the 23rd, so the following weekend. And then we have the AWC Gauntlet, and the mid-season clash is going to be on March the 1st. So that's the upcoming stuff. Should be Should be interesting to see how, especially the MDI. I'm curious how that's going to pan out. Uh, what the go-to class comps that we're going to see for the Mythic Dungeon. I don't know if we're going to have God comp like we did last season. So I'm curious about that. I don't know. Are you excited for any of this there, Jake? Or
In all honesty, I've never really watched that sort of thing. It doesn't really tend to interest me. I'm much more of a PvP enjoyer
fair
in
enough.
terms of watching. Like, I think it's great. I think it's fantastic.
Mhm.
I just know that I'm really happy to see 24,000 people watching the AWC on Twitch, and that's kind of what I really have been
Heck yeah.
enjoying.
I like that too. So,
Good.
all right. Let's get into the subject analysis and actually get back to talking PvP.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
All right, let's do this. So, as hinted on Twitter, and as we've kind of hinted here as well, we're going to talk about the hero talents that that have so far been announced for the War Within. This isn't all of them, obviously. They've only done a few classes, and I think only one of them has 2 so far. There's supposed to be three talent zones for each class. So this should be we're going to try. That said, there is a bit of an issue in that we only have so much time to talk all this stuff. So I should clarify. Of course, Druid being a 4 spec, there's going to be 4 hero specs for that. Demon Hunter only has 2. Versus all the rest have 3. So we'll see where this goes. But in the meantime, we're gonna kind of look at what's been provided to us for knowledge between what's been announced by Blizzard and, for the most part, what's been figured out by Wowhead and MMO Champion. So let's get into it. You ready for this, Jake?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. So first and foremost, Death Knight with they call it the Sandland tree, which is only for blood and unholy. So this actually seems like a very interesting spec tree. And I say interesting somewhat tongue because how it plays into itself. So first and foremost, the first talent that opens into the tree. So you have a talent at the very top, and then it has 3 channels. Each with 3 specs depending. And so my understanding is once you select into one, you're stuck in that channel until you get to the bottom, which is the gift of the Sandland. So first and foremost, it starts off with Heroic Strike, which is on chance of you after using Death Coil or Death Strike, you have a chance that your next Heart Strike, or Scourge Strike will become a Vampiric Strike. And the Vampiric Strike heals you for 3% of your maximum health and grants you Essence of the Blood Queen, which increases your haste by 1.5%, and it can stack up to 7.5% for 20 seconds. So that's interesting. That sounds like a bit of haste. Like 1.5 up to 7.5% haste sounds pretty tasty. Plus, healing yourself for 3% of your maximum health, which is different than Death Strike, because Death Strike is based on how much damage you've received in the last few seconds, and then up to a maximum of a percentage of your health, right? So this is just a flat heal. I don't know. What do you think about this Vampiric Strike, though?
I mean, this is the thing, right? This is what I'm talking about. The problem that I've always had with this sort of thing is it's just giving you passives, right? It's stacking passives. So if you look at the kind of beginning of the Vampiric Strike, right? Like you've got your Death Core and Death Strike have a 10% chance to make your next Heart Strike or Scourge Strike become a Vampiric Strike. Now, Scourge Strike for DKs is your button filler, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is just that is the one that you press that puts festering wounds on. It does all this sort of stuff. It's one unholy rune. That's it. But Vampiric Strike heals you for 3% of your maximum health, which is bonkers because that's always healing you big heals, which is basically like a Death Strike almost, and grants you Essence of the Blood Queen, increasing your haste by 1.5% up to 7.5% for 20 seconds. So let's say you proc that, then you can start you can start sort of I don't know, scourge striking and blowing up wounds and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That kind of stuff. It's sort of that's the kind of big thing there. As you go down, it just seems to kind of buff everything, right? It just buffs and buffs and buffs and buffs. And then you get to the bottom where it just sort of massively buffs it. And then, like if it procs, you got, or a certain sort of situation happens, you've got like a random passive that's just sort of like giving you a buttload of healing and a buttload of damage, basically.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of the issue. There's no like really cool active ability here. It's just this sometimes buffs what you've got. So
Yeah.
like that's the thing I have. All of this is passive. So what is heroic about any of this? These are all passives
You're
to
just
me.
more powerful when you do things.
Yeah.
Like
What I think would be really cool is if they said if this vampiric strike was just turned into vampiric strike.
Mhm.
Just turn it. Get rid of Scourge Strike. It becomes vampiric strike. It doesn't
Sure.
exist. Heart Strike and Scourge Strike doesn't exist anymore. You get Vampiric Strike, and what that does is it does exactly what it says, but maybe to a lesser degree, and has a percentage chance at some point to do to heal you, that kind of stuff. Like make it
Mhm.
an action ability that changes the stuff that you've got. So that's you've got an actual talent. Instead of this is just like you're just like your regular sort of person, except you've got a load of big old buffs that randomly do
Yeah.
stuff. You know?
I suspect that they're doing it this way, so then they're not causing button bloat because you kind of hit it back to the discussion about classic to Burning Crusade to Wrath, where by the end of Wrath, the amount of abilities that we had was a little bonkers. And I think what they're trying to do is avoid that. So trying to just do everything as passives and buffing and
Yeah.
borrow really, like you said, borrow power. But instead of adding
Well,
another ability to your button bar, it's
yeah.
it's just change it, option to change and then make that button really strong. If
Okay. Well, on the flip side, then flip side. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, Vampiric Strike is just replacing something. That's not
Mhm.
adding anything. But let's say you've got the kind of top end replaces something that you have. That I think this would be a cool idea, and this would be a better idea in my opinion. Vampiric Strike is just that replaces Scourge Strike. That's there. You then have a load of passives going through that kind of buff that or kind of add additional stuff. I don't mind that. That's no problem. As long as they're not just like randomly stacking stuff and giving you this insane ability. And then at the end, you get like an ultimate ability, like something that's really cool.
Mhm.
That I think would be really nice. Like like that can be an added ability. You have one extra ability that you can press, you know? Like
Yeah.
for example, when you got Haunt as Athley in Wrath.
Mhm.
That is another ability there that kind of buffs all the stuff that you're doing,
Mhm.
but it's something you have to press and maintain, and it's part of the rotation and everything, and it's a meaningful ability. In
Yeah.
this, the problem I have is that it is all passives. Like there is literally
Mhm.
nothing. It's all passives, and then it kind of gives you a random sort of there's this one here, the Blood is Life. So it has a chance to summon a Vampiric Strike has a chance to summon a Blood Beast to attack your enemy for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Each time the Blood Beast attacks, it stores a portion of the damage dealt, and when the Blood Beast dies, it explodes, dealing 50% of the damage accumulated to nearby enemies and healing the Death Knight for the same amount. Like I like this idea of healing, buffing the healing and stuff like that, but I can see that just being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it really pumping the damage, and it's so many extra things that they have to nerf. When they nerf people, and they just give them, they're going to have to give them just flat damage, or they adjust these sort of things. It's so many different modifiers and numbers to have to deal with. I don't know why Blizzard keep trying to add modifiers and not just sort of go, okay, well, we'll focus it on one ability. Make that all something to do with Vampiric Strike, and then nerf and buff Vampiric Strike or something like that.
Yeah.
Make it like a really like make the hero talents like the small tree that is like three or four things that you have a choice of that you can choose to buff that ability in the way that you want to buff it. And then you've got a capstone, which is this ultimate ability. And I think that'd
Mhm.
be really
Mhm.
cool.
I agree. One thing I did note is, if you look at, so let's go down the trees just quickly. I want to say this.
Mhm.
So you got newly turned or vampiric speed. Um, Newly turned raise allies revives a player at full health and grants you an absorption shield equal to 20% of your health max. And then vampiric speed, death is advanced and wraith walk are increased speed bonus increased by 10%. Activating either increases for nearby allies movement speed as well. Cool. Um, PvP wise, that'd be pretty good for BGs or RBGs.
Hmm.
Infliction of Sorrow. When Vampiric Strike damages an enemy affected with Blood Plague or Virulent Plague, it consumes the disease, dealing 200% of the remaining damage. While the Gift of the Sandlin is active, Vampiric Strike no longer consumes your disease and instead extends the duration of your disease by 3 seconds and deals 20% of the remaining damage to the enemy. Okay. Again, like I said, passives. Visceral Regeneration. Your Heart Strike and Scourge Strike have a 3% per stack of Essence of the Blood Queen to refund a rune. Vampiric Strike doubles the chance to refund the rune. Okay, cool. One thing I have to note is we don't know what the cost of Vampiric Strike is, so we have no idea how many strikes you can do back to back based on
Well,
runes,
yeah,
runic
it's
power.
it's a percentage based chance. There's a chance that, like, for example, this all comes from a chance, right? It's a 10% chance that your Death Coil and Death Strike have a 10% chance to make the next
Mhm.
Scourge Strike, which is a regular ability, Vampiric Strike. I don't
Yeah.
understand why they don't just turn it into an actual different ability that still
Well,
has the same proc chance, but
mhm.
but kind of becomes empowered when you get like a proc, like, but just change it, into a different thing, like
No,
make.
I get that. What I'm asking is we don't know if Vampiric Strike is going to cost the same amount as a Scourge Strike in runic power.
It should be the same rune because it's
Should.
basically the reason why it should be is it's just your next Scourge Strike becomes Vampiric Strike, so one assumes that it costs the same.
Should. Okay, the next channel was Blood-Soaked Ground, followed by Frenzied Bloodthirst, followed by Incite Terror. So, Blood-Soaked Ground, while you're within Death and Decay, your physical damage taken is reduced by 5%, and your chance to gain Vampiric Strike is increased by 5%.
So 15 total.
Yeah. Frenzied Bloodthirst, Essence of the Blood Queen stacks 2 additional times and increases the damage of your Death Coil and Death Strike by 5%. And Incite Terror, Heart Strike, and Scourge Strike extend the duration of Essence of the Blood Queen by 0.5 seconds. Vampiric Strike increases the extension by 100%.
Yeah, again, just
Yeah.
random passives that just buff the living hell out of that.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a Blood DK channel and it's PvE tanking. I don't see anybody, because how often are you staying inside your Death and Decay when you're PvPing? I don't see
You
it.
do, to be honest. You could easily take this. I could see people easily playing Sand Lane and just being unkillable. And
Yeah.
you play with something that does high damage. You're unkillable, and you just destroy people when you need to destroy them. But otherwise, you're basically like a tank. You're like an unholy DK blasting damage, but you're also a tank. This is what I kind of see it as.
Okay. I saw that as like strictly a Blood DK channel. But yeah. And then
I think it's
Mhm.
great for blood DKs for sure.
Oh
Absolutely
yeah.
great for blood DKs. But I feel like not being able to die in the arena is pretty insane for something like a twos game.
Oh yeah. True. The last channel on the right, we got Vampiric Aura or Bloody Fortitude, followed by Blood is Life, which you talked about, followed by Sanguine Scent or Pact of the Sandlin. So the first one, Vampiric Aura, your leech is increased by 3%. While Lichborn is active, the leech amount is increased by 100% and affects 4 nearby allies. Holy moly. The other option was Bloody Fortitude. Icebound Fortitude reduces all damage you take by up to an additional 30% based on your missing health. Killing enemies that grant honor or experience reduces the cooldown of Icebound Fortitude by 3 seconds.
Yeah, for me, the first one is the PvE one. The second one is the PvP one for sure.
Well, I can see the second one definitely in BGs, but I don't see it being used in Arena because you're not killing enemies that much in Arena.
No, but the big thing is is an additional 30%. Like, if you think about
Yeah.
it, like Icebound Fortitude is already a 30% wall. If you
Mhm.
get to half health and press wall,
That's
and then you get
60%.
that's
Yeah.
a 60% wall. That's insane. You're
Yeah.
not going to die.
Uh,
100%.
uh,
Not with.
Yeah, true. Assuming that it's 30% after 50% reduced. So even if
Well,
you
yeah,
said if it's a 1-for-1, if you did it at 70%, you're a 60% wall at 70% health. You're
it's
laughing,
insane.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
and then you're death striking for yeah. Okay. Anyways,
I
Blood
mean,
is Life. Yeah.
even if it increased it by half, like let's say 15%,
Mhm.
like let's say it's got 50% nerf and it got 15%, that's a 45% wall. That's still like one of the best walls in the game.
Mhm.
With a death knight, they can out heal anything. That you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Um, the one you talked about, Blood is Life. I worry about this one because of splash damage.
Yeah,
That's very, yeah. You could definitely bot your go if you splash damage and break CC.
I think more than likely you play this playing double melee like a DHDK, and you just be cleaving whatever
Mhm.
you into. You'll be cleaving. You just pull them in for a grip blind, and then you're just blasting damage through the stun. So I don't think it matters too much. The damage is going to be
Oh
too high.
yeah, fair. Last one, Sanguine Scent, and then Pact of the Sandland. So Sanguine Scent, your Death Coil and Death Strike have a 15% chance to trigger Vampiric Strike when damaging enemies below 35% health, and is guaranteed to critically strike. Cha-ching.
Yeah,
Pact Pact of the Sandland, you store 50% of all shadow damage dealt into your Blood Beast to explode for an additional damage when it explodes. So that again, you're just buffing your beast, which
yeah.
holy Jesus.
I think it depends. I really feel like Sanguine Scent is your single target, and Pact of the Sandlane is your multi target. So if you're kind of
Mhm.
queuing into if you know that you're going to queue into a ranged and a melee like hybrid comp,
Mhm.
you could probably go Sanguine Scent and kind of really focus on that single target, because
Mm.
that's going to increase your Vampiric Strike,
Mhm.
and then also it's guaranteed to critically strike as well, which is big. And then you've got the second one is really good for cleave. So if you're up against a double melee, so you get extra shadow damage coming out from your beast.
True. Now, we don't know if we can change these in the waiting area. Do we?
You can, yeah. It does say that you can change them like normal.
Oh boy. Okay. So,
Yeah, so you'll be able to switch things around.
all right. Okay. The next class is Druid, which was the Keeper of the Grove series. This is for restoration or balance specs only. And the top one, the start, is the talent called Dream Surge, which is Force of Nature grants 3 charges of Dream Burst, causing your next Wrath or Starfire to explode on the target, dealing nature damage to nearby enemies. Damage reduced over 5 targets. Grove Guardians causes your next targeted heal to create 2 Dream Petals near the target, healing up to 3 allies, stacks up to 3 charges. Huh. So this is worrisome. Again, another AoE, and that's not even a choice. Like, you have to take this. So I
Yeah,
don't like that. I don't like that.
it's
Like
NPC
that's
healing.
hmm?
It's NPC healing.
Well,
That's the
but
problem.
one thing of Force of Nature, like if you're a boomkin, you Force of Nature, your Force of Nature automatically grants you the Dream Burst, which then causes anytime you're using your filler, which is Starfire or Wrath, it's going to explode, which is then going to break CC.
Yeah, but it won't break your cyclone, which I think is the major important thing here.
Fair.
It might there could probably be some clever ideas for kind of making sure you're close for the the root beam potentially, but cyclone is probably still going to be strong. So you're not going to be too
Yeah.
worried if they're in the cyclone.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what class you're playing with. I feel like this is
Yeah.
gonna change meta. It's definitely gonna change meta.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. I just think, yeah, it's just a lot of them is. I just really disagree with the way that all of this is passive. You'll
mhm,
never all of this that happens. You'll never see any of this. You're never going to see any of it. Like it's like all it is just random stuff. I wish as I said, with hero talents, they could have just done 4 or 5 talents
mhm,
that had an ability that changed for your main abilities, and then gave you an extra ability on top of that, which was kind of like a powered ability,
yeah,
just something new, something interesting that um that that kind of like is themed to your class and isn't just like like a borrowed power. It is
mhm,
spec, the same kind of concept. Like like, okay, let's say these, instead of treants, they became dryads, and you
yeah,
summon dryads that did this depending on which spec you were, and then you had like 3 abilities below that could be buffed, and you have choices on them, so they buffed certain ways, which then leads down to a capstone, and that capstone is, I don't know, summon an ancient of wisdom, which kind of like channels, something
Yeah.
along those lines. That would be sick. You kind of like first of all, you got a visual thing. Second of all, it's like a whole new ability, but it's kind of based on your class. Now that sounds cool to me. I don't think
Mhm.
anyone would be opposed to that. Now, obviously, I understand that you need some sort of coding expertise at that point, but something like that would be better, like an extra ability. All of this is passive. It's just passive, all passive,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
hate that. Like,
I feel like people are going to be tracking all this with weak orders to know when they have to you know.
yeah,
s- s-
every five like I don't know.
Mhm.
Let's read down through it. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No,
We'll
no,
read
it's
through it.
fine. So let's skip to the head. The capstone on this one is called Harmony of the Grove. So each of your Force of Nature treants increases damage your spells deal by 3% while active. Each of your Grove Guardians increases your healing done by 3% while active.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So again, a passive buff. Now
passive.
now that means then so let's say you press Force of Nature, so that's a 1 minute cooldown, right? And it
Yeah.
summons 3 treants for 10 seconds, which immediately taunt and attack enemies in the targeted area. Okay, so you drop in 3 treants. Those are granting 3 charges of Dream Burst. You have 3, so that's 3% added damage on top of whatever else you're going to get from any of these other passives, plus whatever buffs you already have. If you pop a trinket or something like that as well, and then you end up casting Wrath, and that's going to deal. And then you have treants, so that's going to buff the nature damage. So you're just going to try to blow somebody up, and you're just going to cause this massive multi explosion of like, my god. Yeah, arena alone, this is going to be crazy. Imagine this in a BG, in a scrum.
Yeah.
You're just going to
It's just
blow people up.
yeah, exactly. It's just massively buffing the passive of that ability. Now, I think that the concept is interesting. I definitely think they're going along the right way of like, let's pick something and then buff that.
Mm-hmm.
What they should do is they change the concept of what it is, and
Yeah.
then buff it slightly, reduce the amount of options of buffs that they get, and then just kind of leave it at that. It's just so much. Like, it's just insane the amount of ability they have here. And I understand that like they want to make sure they cover all the levels, but I just feel like it feels gross. Like, I'm thinking with PvP involved, and it just
Mm-hmm.
feels gross. Like they're promoted. I don't like the promotion of NPC healing. Really, I think treants were a terrible idea.
Well, it's NPC and NPC damage.
Yeah,
Now here's one I want to point out. So DK we just went over. 3 trees, and out of the 3 trees, only 2 abilities. Not it with of the 3 channels, like the top one and the bottom one, that's solid. But 3 channels, there's 2 spots that were choice nodes, right?
yeah.
Druid has 1 choice node per section. Now, I want to point this out because I saw that up ahead there's even some more than that.
It should all
So
be choice nodes. It should, realistically speaking, it should all be choice nodes. They should
yeah.
have maximum, let's say, 6 choice
Mhm.
nodes. You have your initial ability, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's like
Yeah.
all choice. All choice lets you kind of almost like a little mini mop style
Hmm.
talent choice that you can kind of choose certain things and adapt your play style to, and you just put those down there, and then over time they build on these hero talents. Like, that to me seems like
Hmm.
that makes sense. However, they've gone loads of it. Like, these hero talents like are going to be their whole own different sort of talent tree, but
Yeah.
it's just so much passive buffing. It's just, I think it's just going to be so wildly difficult for them to buff
It
it
is.
and nerf it.
It is. Sorry. I can't count apparently. The first row has 2 choice nodes. So 2 of the 3 are choice nodes. So
Okay.
that's 4 total out of the 9. But okay. So first row, treants, your treants cast move fire on nearby tyrants but once every 6 seconds. Okay. First choice node. After that is Power of Nature. Your Force of Nature treants no longer taunt and deal 20% added damage. Grove, increase healing of your Reju, Effluence, and Life Boom by 5% while active. The other choice is Durability of Nature. Your Force of Nature treants have 50% increased health, so now they're harder to kill. And Grove Guardian's Nourish and Swiftmend spells also apply a minor Cenarian ward that heals the target over 8 seconds the next time they take damage.
Yeah.
Okay, so more passive. And the last one on that row, uh, Bounteous Bloom. Your Force of Nature tree generates 3 astral power every 2 seconds, and your Grove Guardian's healing is increased by 20%. Or Early Spring. Your Force of Nature cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds. Your Grove Guardian cooldown is decreased by 3 seconds. So yeah. The other row, Expansiveness. Your maximum mana is increased by 5%. Your maximum astral power is increased by 20%. That's pretty big. The next one down is Cenarius's Might. Casting Star Surge or Starfall increases the damage of your next Star Surge or Starfall by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. Casting another spell cancels this effect. Casting Regrowth, Wild Growth, or Swiftmend increases the healing of your next Regrowth, Wild Growth, or Swiftmend by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. Casting another spell cancels that effect. Last one in that row is just also a choice node. Is either Power of the Dream, where your Force of Nature grants an additional stack of Dream Burst. Healing spells cast with Dream Surge generate an additional Dream Petal. And Cenarius's Might increases spell damage or healing by an additional 5%. Alternately, Control of the Dream talent is time elapsed while your major abilities are available to be used is subtracted from that ability's cooldown after the next time you use it by up to 5 seconds. I have no idea what that means. It affects Nature Swiftness, Incarnation, Tree of Life, Force of Nature, Celestial Alignment, and Convoke the Spirits.
Yeah, it's just passively
Giant
buffing
CDR.
the abilities. Yeah, I think that's just the thing. So it's there's just a lot of stuff that I feel like it's just unnecessary, and I think it's just again more passively buffing stuff. Like I understand there should be some passive buffs, like I get it, but it's just I think it's an interesting concept. I really do, and I think a lot of these look cool. I just think again, it's this one in particular, the Keep of the Grove. It's a really great concept, but I just don't like the idea of NPC healing, and I don't feel like they should do that much. I feel like it should be you should be given if they're gonna bring in NPC like your kind of like pets to heal, they should be giving like you the buffs to do better healing, not doing healing themselves as well. Like I think it's just all a bit of a mess.
I'd like it where they joined you. So whenever you were like casting to somebody, then they would also cast to that person. So you have just don't cross the streams, right? But you're all like healing the one person kind of, and then switch over there, then you're healing that one over there kind of thing. I think that would be cool. But yeah, this push a button and then you can just like take your hands off your keyboard and let the NPCs do it for you I don't anyway. So there's one more row. I'm not going to go. We're running a little behind on time here. I do want to talk quickly about the Elune's Chosen, which is the other druid tree that has already been announced or was announced, and that's Balance and Guardian tree or the mixed node. And this has a whole bunch of question marks. And I guess
I'm finished.
Yeah. I'm not sure why I used a lot of Wowhead to try to data mine a bunch because they aggregated a bunch of the data. So I don't know why this is unknowns. But the top one, which is known, is Boundless Moonlight, where Fury of the Elune now ends with a flash of energy blasting nearby enemies for astral damage. Full Moon calls down 2 crescent moons that deal astral damage and generate 3 astral power. And Lunar Beam now causes you to leech life equal to 10% of all damage dealt to enemies within the light or within the beam. Okay. So I have no idea what the damage calculation is for crescent moons. I can't find. They don't have it yet. So that's an idea that's unfinished. Not sure how much Lunar Beam does for damage, let alone how much that would equate then to the amount of leech you would get. And Fury of Elune, again, nothing's really provided as far as damage modifiers and everything, so no idea how much of the splash damage is going to be from that. But again, here we have another option where unless somebody's in a cyclone, you're probably going to be breaking their CC.
Yeah. I think it's just there's a lot of don't know, just a lot of just potential for AoE. I think there's some.
Mhm.
I think out of the two of them, I like this idea the most. I think I definitely find that there's with the Elune's Chosen, there's a possibility for there to be better. But again, it just kind of sounds like when they buffed Convoke
Mhm.
early on in season 1 of Dragonflight, and you get so many people abusing stuff. It's just it just kind of seemed to
What are you
kind of go a
talking
bit
about?
just awry.
Convoke was fine in season 1, buddy.
Uh-huh. Okay, yeah, sure. Sure. But it's you know, I think like I understand why they're going for passives. They just don't want to bring in something
Yeah.
that's too OP, like something that would be
Yeah.
crazy. Like Convoke was a really interesting concept. Like I do genuinely think it was a good idea. It was just massively overtuned, right?
Mhm.
And they fixed that and then it became totally fine. Like there's lots of stuff like that. Like Primordial Wave, fantastic idea. They kept it, really great way of kind of improving the way that shamans worked. Awesome. A lot of the kind of the Fey called transcendence, the cooldowns for mages, for example, fantastic, really cool idea. These are the sort of things that they should be building on, like cool ideas that are
Mhm.
spec specific. They
I
can
don't
do
know.
it.
Yeah.
There's so many options. Just
I
take an ability that we already have and change it.
I do like this one, like the Boundless Moonlight. At least it's not just buffing, but it does like some other things. Like it's not just 10% extra damage or you know chance of doing something cool. It's like no, I push if I get a full moon cast off, it's dropping a giant moon plus 2 little moons. Yeah, booyah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I kind of
Get
I
moon.
like that. Yeah. I'm bringing in the whole solar system next time. You watch. Right. I do like it. Same like for your Elune. Okay, so then it ends with a flash of energy. Cool, neat. Uh, it's not just a 10% buff. So that I like that better than what we're talking about earlier. But still, yeah, I see where you're coming from. I do like the idea. I prefer if it was like take an ability, maybe a filler, but make it more. Do it, change it into something else that does more, not
Yeah.
just buff it 10% and call it a day.
Yeah, well, it's,
Yeah.
it's basically like you've got an ability here. Let's
Mhm.
buff it a little bit and
Yeah.
change how it works. And then, like, if you're going to change how it works, you might as well change the whole ability. Like, do that
Yeah.
instead. Actually,
Yeah.
go in and show us your cojones and actually change the ability. Make it so that when you choose these hero talents, you're not just doing the same stuff, but kind of better. You're actually changing. Like you've chosen a path. Like you've chosen Sand Lane, therefore you've gone down that path and
Yeah.
therefore your abilities should change, or some of
Mhm.
them at least. Like one specific one should change. Like that is the point of the hero talents. It's not just a load of random buffs to like a specific type of damage that you're doing, but it's like it should be okay. You have a main ability and then like a secondary big ability that's on a
Yeah.
larger cooldown that kind of encapsulates everything you're doing. For example, you can have us like in that Sand Lane one, for example, you've got Vampiric Strike as the main ability that gets buffed and has some healing and like maybe can release the hounds and stuff like that. But like your main ability is like I don't know if you ever played League of Legends where there's a character called Vladimir who is a vampire and or at least some sort of like I don't know blood magician or something like that. And when he presses his ultimate, I think he kind of like drains the life out of things around him. That
Mhm.
would be really cool. Like have some sort of like image of like kind of draining life or something like that. That kind of then buffs that ability that you get
Yeah.
from it. I think that would be a really interesting concept.
I think. Well, uh, hopefully they do something like that, but hopefully it doesn't get them in trouble. We'll we'll see. Um, all right, let's move on. Sorry, just I should end the capstone to this one was Eternal Moon. Further increases the power of Boundless Moonlight. Fury of Elune. The flash of energy now generates 10 astral power and its damage increased by 50%. So more splash damage. Okay. So that's the end of that one. Yeah, I hear what you're saying though, Jake. Like this, yeah. Well, hey, let's get on. Let's see if they change their mind. I mean, so this is some of the older stuff. I think. Let's move into it. So Evoker has Chronowarden. Can you read through this one? My voice is starting to go a little bit.
That I can do, yes, I can absolutely do that for you. So Chrono Flame is essentially living flame is enhanced with bronze magic, repeating 15% of the damage or healing you dealt to the target in the last 5 seconds as arcane, up to a fixed amount. So again, it's a sort of like a random sort of buff that with bronze magic. This is for preservation or augmentation evokers. If you then go down the left-hand side, you've got warp. So hover now warps you through time and space, and its cooldown reduced by 5 minutes. Again, CDR. Hover continues to allow the evoker spell to be cast while moving. Okay, nice clarification. And then you've got a choice. Interdimensional phase, warp reduces damage by 30%, starting high and reducing over 2 seconds. And then warp leaves a trail of motes of acceleration. Allies who come in contact with a mote gain 20% movement speed for 30 seconds. I mean, okay. Right. So if I'm understanding this right, if I take interdimensional phase every time I use hover, which is like on a 20-second 30-second cooldown, I get a 30% wall. That is bonkers. Okay. Next one. Careful is another choice. Careful contemplation. Your intellect and stamina are increased by 10%, but your cooldowns are increased by 10%. Okay. Interesting. Time convergence. Abilities with a 45-second cooldown or longer grant 10% intellect for 15 seconds. Defensive abilities grant 10% stamina for 15 seconds. Essence spells extend the duration by 1 second. Okay, I think this is cool. Time convergence is interesting. I like that you have the opportunity to have longer cooldowns, but increased intellect and stamina. That's interesting. So that's the left-hand side. So far, really enjoying this one. This one is kind of more along the lines of what I'd expect. Like, obviously, I prefer if they just changed Living Flame to like Chrono Flame, like change it around, like change its color, give it a different skin, but give it the same ability. You know, like this makes sense to me. Then you go down the middle. You got Temporal Burst. So tip the scales overloads you with temporal energy, increasing your haste and movement speed and cooldown recovery rate by 2%, ramping up to 40% over 20 seconds. Oh my Christ. Okay. Interesting.
Just a little bit of CDR. Just a little bit.
Right. I mean, this is bonkers for preservation, must be. Or augmentation. Casting an essence ability during temporal burst causes a nearby enemy to gain a nearby ally to gain Thread of Fate for 15 seconds, granting them a chance to echo their damage or healing spells. Okay, dealing 15% of the amount. Okay, that's not bad. 15% of the amount again. Right. Okay.
That's just a little bit of damage.
It's a little bit extra damage on something that is fairly stable. Then you get another choice. Master of Destiny. Empower spells amplify all your active threads of fate, increasing their power by 100% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. Okay, this is bonkers. So that's like a mega ability. So like you suddenly, let's say you do like a Chaos Bolt. That gets amplified for 100%. So you're suddenly doing like 200k, 400k damage in current concepts.
That's fine.
Stacking up to 2 times. Okay, so you can stack that up to 2 times. So it goes up to 200%. Okay. Prescience has a 25% chance to not incur a cooldown. Echo has a 25% chance. Okay, right. Master of Destiny is definitely the one choice there. Then on the right-hand side, you've got Reverberation. Spirit Bloom heals for an additional 30% over 8 seconds. Upheaval deals 30% additional damage over 30 seconds. That's all right. Primacy, for each damage over time effect from Upheaval or Spirit Bloom, gain 3% haste up to 9. Instability Matrix. Each time you cast an Empower spell, unstable time magic reduces its cooldown up to 15 seconds. Okay.
Another
a lot
CDR.
Of CDR. Yeah, a lot of CDR.
And Reverberation, finally, I don't like. Like, you're just doing I mean, obviously it's one ability, but again, it's just buffing that ability. So Upheaval's already a pretty strong ability, and then additional damage. Same with Spirit Bloom, more healing.
Yeah.
Adding a dot or a hot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the best. No. But
and then what's the capstone on that?
A lot of the other ones are incredible. After Image. Empower spells send up to 3 Chrono Flames to your targets. Chrono Flames have a small chance to grant you Essence Burst. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's bonkers. That's a really good spec. I just think personally, again, the only thing that would make this more interesting and more balanced, I think, is if they reduce the number of these things that were here, give them options of choices, and then change Chrono Flame to an actual ability that replaces Living Flame, because that would be cool. So you'd see them casting Chrono Flame. Like, that would be interesting.
I'd love to see
actually, as an FYI, you would never know if someone's chosen Chronowarden. What's it going to say? Chronowarden Preservation Evoker in front of it? That's a massive amount of thing. Surely what you'd want to do is you'd want to see the change of the ability, because you wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what they've chosen. I didn't know that they've chosen this spec or this kind of hero spec. I think that'd be a really interesting way of being able to figure out, okay, this guy's using a different ability. So you kind of know.
Yeah, I wouldn't know unless in like details I saw after they cast Living Flame, if I saw like a bunch of arcane add additional arcane damage or something like that. Or
Yeah, exactly.
Chrono Flames shooting out after they empowered a spell. That's the only way I would know.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
honestly think it's I honestly think that's the thing. Like, if you see him casting a chrono flame, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy's a Chronowarden.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. What
that to me.
yeah,
So
watch out, they're gonna have a wall every time they hover. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like that's I think what they should do. But I feel like it's it's just they just should replace it. Like I think if they do it for one, they should do it for. I think everything should just get replaced. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
We'll see.
that's Chronowarden. I'll be moving
Mm-hmm.
on to hunters now.
Mm-hmm. Let's do 100. You got it?
Yeah. Yeah. This is silly, I think personally. Dark Ranger should be Survival Hunter and MM Hunter. Should not be Beast Mastery.
100%.
This is wrong. This is wholly wrong. Anyway, I'll read through. Black Arrow. Now this is what I'm talking about. They've given them a spell. They've given them a specific spell
Mm-hmm.
here. This is what they should do for all of them.
They've returned them a spell.
Okay, fine. Return them a spell, whatever. This is what I mean. Like if they just did this, like you could return a spell for the others, or you could change one that already exists into something else, like the Chrono
Mm-hmm.
Flame, like Vampiric Strike, that kind of stuff. Just change it around. So Black Arrow, fire a Black Arrow from your target into your target, causing it to take shadow damage every 2 seconds for 16 seconds. Each time Black Arrow deals damage, you have a chance to reset the cooldown of aimed shot or barb shot. I mean, this should be Survival Hunter. This was originally a Survival Hunter ability.
Yep.
So going down the left-hand side, you've got Ranger's Finesse, aim shot, and rapid fire deal 15% increased damage. Barb shot and kill command deal 15% increased damage. I hate that already. So then you've got a choice one, Dark Empowerment. When Black Arrow resets the cooldown of ability, gain 15 focus. All right, that's nice. Bit of quality life. Grave Reaper. When a target afflicted by Black Arrow dies, the cooldown of Black Arrow is reduced by 12 seconds. That's a great PvE change. Then you've got Intense Darkness. When True Shot or Call of the Wild is active, Black Arrow deals damage 15% faster. Cool. Interesting. I think that's fine. I don't personally like the Ranger's Finesse. I think just passively increasing aim shot and rapid fire is really gross. Barb shot and kill command. Just why? Dark Hounds. Each time Black Arrow deals damage, you have a chance to manifest an undead hound to charge your target and deal shadow damage. That's a cool ability. I like that one a lot. Then you've got choice. Embrace the shadows. You heal for 15% of all the shadow damage dealt by you or your pets. Don't like that one. Think that's dumb. Smoke Screen. Exhilaration grants you 3 seconds of Survival of the Fittest. Survival of the Fittest activates Exhilaration at 50% effectiveness. Okay. I think that's interesting.
Isn't that just that's just a passive buff though, right?
Yeah, it's just a passive buff to like some of the healing and some of the defensives, which I don't think is too bad. It's not a bad idea, but it has nothing to do with anything related with Black Arrow, which is what it should do.
Yeah.
Shadow Surge. When multi-shot hits a target affected by Black Arrow, a burst of shadow energy erupts, dealing moderate shadow damage to all abilities near the target. This is going to occur every 6 seconds. So again, AoE. Don't think that's too bad a thing, but that's clearly a PvE thing. So going to the right hand side.
No, I want to stop, but that like unless you're playing Hunter Druid, you're gonna break CC again. Like if you have somebody in an ice trap, they're gonna break out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, but we have a lot of that already anyway. I don't think that's too much of an issue. I think a lot of people will take CC now that is like hard CC. For example, Hunters probably will play Diamond Ice. So that's kind of the big thing. So I don't think that's too much of a problem.
I guess I should care. You probably won't be casting multi-shot if you're in a go though.
No, it's a PvE thing. It's definitely a PvE thing. So it's like if you want, so it says when multi-shot hits a target, like it's sort of you're pressing multi-shot because you want to cleave. So that's not a problem.
True.
Right. Going to the right side. When you apply Black Arrow to it, this is Death Shade. When you apply Black Arrow to a target, you gain the Death Blow or Hunter's Prey effect. No idea what that is. Don't play Hunter, so that means nothing to me. Dark Chain's Disengage will chain the closest target to you, to the ground, causing them to move 40% slower until they move away 8 yards. I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. I understand that. I can see that. But again, this is what I'm talking about, mobility creep. Why is this in the game? Because there's too much mobility in general. Then you get another choice one. Darkness Calls, all shadow damage you and your pets deal is increased by 10%. Okay. Kill Shot has a 15% chance to generate a charge of aim shot or barb shot when used on a target. I mean, that's target affected by Black Arrow. I mean, that basically is just like a free aim shot, which is insane. So, okay. And then you got the capstone. Oh,
Go ahead.
Well, capstone is Withering Fire. When Black Arrow resets the cooldown of aim shot or barb shot, a barrage of dark arrows strikes your target for shadow damage, increases the damage you and your pets deal by 10% for 6 seconds. I mean, yeah, it's. I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. I just feel as if like it just again the passives are kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like Dark Chains is going to need a PvP nerf, like either less of a slow or shorter distance to move to break it. Probably less of a slow.
Yeah, I just think it's just not the. I just think it's only been put in there to deal with the mobility of stuff, and I just think it's kind of unnecessary. But it's there for a reason, and I think again, like the hero talent shouldn't have the sort of thing. They should be hero talent should be buffing that one ability at the top. Like this is perfect, almost. It's almost perfect in the sense that you've got Black Arrow, this new ability that's going to be coming in that is part of your hero talent. Like this is the Dark Ranger. You know, I'm a marksman hunter. I'm a survival hunter. It should be survival hunter. You know, this is who I am, and this is what I've chosen. Black Arrow is my play style. This is kind of like where a lot of my damage comes from. When I play into people, when I'm doing PvE, when I'm doing anything else, we know where the damage comes from. You have certain things that buffs it due to Black Arrow, and that's kind of how it should be. That's just those are the options. And so I feel like that's kind of what the focus is, and then it loses itself by the end. Yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
That's my thoughts.
I feel like I agree. I think Dark Ranger should be survival. I feel like they didn't because survival's a melee now. So thematically, having them use an arrow from a distance makes no sense. But yeah, I feel like so many hunters out there, like if they went as a survival, if they had Dark Ranger as an option that then turned them back into a ranged DPS, I think they would totally love that as an option. That okay, now you know Dark Ranger, now you're ranged or X whatever the other one is, you're still melee, but you're doing something different. Yeah. Okay. I agree though. Let's see. Mage Frostfire, which is the frost or fire tree. Go figure. So I remember Frostfire used to be a thing for mages, and then they took it away. So it's a thing they're giving back. It looks like, but this one, so yeah, again, it looks like it's a bunch of buffings. First, the top one, Frostfire Mastery. Your damaging fire spells generate 1 stack of Fire Mastery, or frost spells generate 1 stack of Frost Mastery. Okay. Just leans into more damage. The left side has starts with a choice node with imbued warding, where fire on the fire side, Blazing Barrier also casts an ice barrier at 25% effectiveness. This also affects your mass barrier. And Frost spec, your ice barrier also casts Blazing Barrier at 25 effectiveness. This also affects your mass barrier. Alternately, you have the Meltdown talent, where you melt slightly out of your ice block and ice cold, allowing you to move slowly during ice block, increasing your movement speed over time. Ice block and ice cold trigger a blast wave when they end. Okay. The next one down is Isothermic Core. Comet Storm now calls down a meteor at 100% effectiveness onto your target's location. Meteor also calls down a Comet Storm at 150% effectiveness onto your target's location. And the last one is Excessive Frost. So for Fire Spec, reaching maximum stacks of Frost Mastery causes your next Phoenix Flames to also cast Ice Nova at 200% effectiveness. When you consume Excessive Frost, the cooldown of Meteor is reduced by 5 seconds. Frost side, reaching maximum stacks of Frost Mastery causes your next flurry to also cast Ice Nova at 200% effectiveness. When you consume excess frost, your cooldown of Comet Storm is reduced by 5 seconds. So that's kind of a neat play. I kind of like that, but we'll see. In the middle tree, you have Frostfire Bolt. So this is a spell that's returned, and this replaces Frostbolt or Fireball, depending which spec you are. And it launches a bolt of Frostfire at the enemy, dealing Frostfire damage, slowing movement speed by 50% and causing an additional Frostfire damage over 8 seconds. Frostfire Bolt generates a stack of both Frost and Fire Mastery. Next one down is a choice node. Severe Temperatures. Casting Frost or Fire spells increases the damage of your next Frostfire Bolt by 6%, stacking up to 5 times. So you're going to get up to 30% Frostfire Bolt. That's kind of neat. That's a good thing. I like that little kind of play back and forth. But and then the other alternate note on that is Thermal Conditioning. Frostfire Bolt's cast time is reduced by 10%. Last one in that tree, Frostfire Empowerment. Your Frost and Fire spells have a chance to activate Frostfire Empowerment, causing your next Frostfire Bolt to always critical strike, explode for 80% of its damage to nearby enemies, and be instant cast. Cha-ching. Last row on the right starts with the choice node, Elemental Affinity. So Fireside, your cooldown of Frost spells is decreased or is reduced by 10%. For Frost, your Frost spell or your Fire spells cooldown are reduced by 30%. Neat. I wonder why it's different. Are Frost cast times that much longer?
It's a good question. I actually don't know. I'll ask my mage friends.
Okay. If anybody's in chat that knows why that'd be different, that'd be kind of cool. The other side of the choice node is Frost and Flame and Frost. For Fire, Cauterize resets the cooldown of your Frost spells with a base cooldown shorter than 4 minutes when it activates. And Frost Cold Snap additionally resets the cooldown of your Fire spells. Okay.
So for that, I mean, the big thing for that for me is that essentially, I would personally take either pretty good, but with that one, essentially, if you ice block before you cauterize, when you cauterize, you're getting ice block back.
Okay, that's neat.
I think. Though I may be wrong. I think ice block is like a 3-minute cooldown or 2-minute cooldown.
I think you're right.
So you get that back instantly.
But then you still have to get rid of hypothermia before you can use it, right?
Of course, yeah. You would still have to get rid of hypothermia, but it's essentially a reset.
Yeah. So then you'd have like basically three ice blocks rather than only 2, assuming you still have the talent for double. Okay.
You wouldn't that's only for fire though because of the cauterize. But
oh right. Yeah.
So you would, either way you'd have 2, but it's giving fire basically 2 ice blocks almost.
Okay.
As long as you ice block in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. As if we need to give more reasons to not be able to kill fire mages. All right. Yeah. Next one down, Frostfire Infusion. Your Frost and Fire spells have a chance to trigger an additional bolt of Frostfire, dealing Frostfire damage. This effect generates Frostfire Mastery when activated. Last one, Excess Fire. So fire reaching a maximum stack of Fire Mastery, cause your next Fire Blast, or to apply Living Bomb at 150% effectiveness when Living Bomb explodes, reduces the cooldown of Phoenix Flames by 10 seconds. Or for the Frost spec, reaching maximum stacks of Fire Mastery. Oh, neat. Okay, this is both Fire Mastery. Causes your next Ice Lance to apply Living Bomb at 150% effectiveness, and when it explodes, you gain Brain Freeze. Okay. And then the capstone to it all, Flash Freeze Burn. Frostfire Empowerment grants you maximum benefit of Frostfire Mastery and refreshes its duration. Activating Combustion or Icy Veins grants you Frostfire Empowerment. Okay, so again, a whole bunch of buffs. The one thing I like about it is it actually gives you back Frostfire Bolt. So
yeah, I mean this. Cool. what would have been really cool is if they'd just kind of flipped it around, you know.
Mhm.
If they just kind of put like Frostfire Mastery like either at the top or underneath, and then kind of built those others into them. Like that's a really cool idea. Like not all this hero talents have to look the same as they go down, but they could be built that way. And I think that'd be a really interesting way of doing it. But again, it should be an ability that kind of works that way. I mean, I like this one. This is probably my favorite one of them so far.
Yeah, I like it. I am a little annoyed that there's like, for as much as they're saying that the War Within is supposed to be like, reaching out of the box and getting really creative and everything, these are two so far where they're just bringing in old talents or old abilities and just rebranding them. I'm a little disappointed by that.
Yeah, I understand that. They should come up with some
Mhm.
interesting concepts that are different.
Yeah, there's nothing. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly critical now, but I like the ability. I missed Frostfire Bolt. It is annoying though because it's frost and fire. So if you get kicked on it, you get locked out of both those trees. So that's annoying.
Yeah, that's the kind of risk there.
Yeah, I don't know what the cast time is going to be on it. Yep, you're
I
right.
think
There's
it's
still other
2
trees to be.
seconds.
Yeah, these aren't the only trees. There's other ones to be revealed. We'll see what they are. Uh, sorry, chat there. Sorry, you're gonna say something there, Jake?
No, I was just going to say, like, I think it's 2 seconds is the cast time. So it's
Oh,
long, but I mean, if you're going to get locked out on both, you could definitely fake it. Like, I think from a
mhm,
PvP point of view, it's not too much of a problem.
mhm. Ooh, fake it, get precog, and then full cast Frostfire, and then get all the bonuses.
If precog still exists at that
Oh,
point,
it's
but
gonna exist. They're not gonna get rid of that. I don't think. I think it's gonna come back in some iteration. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
mhm.
Uh, next tree is Paladin. So this is called Lightsmith. It's for Holy and Prot. So it starts off with Holy Armaments. Will the light to coalesce and become manifest at a target location as a holy armament, which may be wielded by you or your allies. Alternates between Holy Bulwark and Sacred Weapon. Lasts for 20 seconds after being cast. 2 charges maximum. Holy Bulwark, you gain Absorb Shield for 15% of your maximum health. An additional 5% every 2 seconds, stacking up to 30%. Sacred Weapon, your spells and abilities have a chance to deal additional holy damage holy damage or healing. All right. Um, I don't know. I feel like putting things on the ground has never really been well received for PvP. Definitely like not well received for PvE is kind of mixed, but for PvP, like that seems. I feel like this is going to be ignored. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
we'll see. Okay, left side starts with rite of sanctification. Imbue your weapon with power of the light, increases your armor by 5% and your primary stat by 1%. Lasts for 1 hour. Weapon imbued. Or rite of adjuration. Imbue your weapon with the power of the light, increasing your stamina by 3% and causing your holy power spenders to sometimes unleash bursts of healing around a target. Again, weapon imbue. Okay, kind of cool. Laying down arms. When an armament fades from you, the cooldown of lay on hands is reduced by 15 seconds, and you gain shining light or infusion of light. Okay, that's kind of cool. Uh, shared resolve. The effect of your active aura is increased by 33% on targets with your armaments. Okay. I feel like that's going to be a lost one in PvP. I feel like if anything, you're probably going to be the only person picking up your own armaments as a paladin.
Yeah, yeah.
Next one, solidarity. If an ally picks up an armament, you also gain its benefits. If you pick up an armament, nearby ally also gains its benefits. Okay, that's cool. So then again, more reason just to drop it on your own feet, pick it up, and everybody else gets it. Next one is Choice Node, Divine Inspiration. Your spells and abilities have a chance to manifest a holy armament nearby. So I guess that just happens instead of you having to make it happen. Or, forewarning, the cooldown of holy armaments is reduced by 20%. Next one, Valiance. Consuming shining light or infusion of light extends the duration of any armament by 3 seconds, or reduces the cooldown by 3 seconds if none exists. Okay. So just by doing things happen. Last one on the far right. Pardon me. Starts with a choice node, Divine Guidance. For each holy power ability cast, your next consecration does additional holy damage or healing split across all enemies up to a fixed total. Or the other talent, Blessed Assurance. Casting a holy power spender increases the damage and healing of your next Crusader Strike, Blessed Hammer, or Hammer of the Righteous by 100%. Oof. Next one is a choice note again. Fear no evil. While wielding an armament, the duration of fear effects the duration of fear effects is reduced by 50%. And exoriation. Enemies within 5 yards of Hammer of Justice's target are slowed by 15%. Oh, that's just painful. Starting to get a tickle. Last one on that right side, Hammer and Anvil. Judgment critical strikes cause a shockwave around the target, dealing additional holy damage or healing at the target's location. All right, some more AoE. And last, the cornerstone to this all is Blessing of the Forge. Avenging Wrath summons an additional sacred weapon, and during Avenging Wrath, your sacred weapon casts spells on your target and echoes the effects of your holy power abilities. Okay, thoughts?
It's like a kind of like, this is going to be a very weird sort of thing. I don't know whether or not that makes it kind of brings. I don't know whether it brings thingy back in, prop paladins back into the fray, but I think it's an interesting one. I think there are some again, like I see the potential in everything. I feel like there's a lot there that's going to be good, but again, it's too much like passive that kind of just like randomly does a bit of like the NPC healing is, I think, the problem here. The kind of repetition of the healing. That's not necessarily. I mean, this one's not too bad. At least this isn't like treants or anything. At least this is kind of like like you're utilizing Avenging Wrath to get big heals out during a burst window. That's what you're trying to do. This is a response, and you're getting even more healing coming out. So this I understand.
Yeah, I guess I'm just worried that if it's do you have to just run over the weapon and boom, you have it, or do you have to like click on it? I feel like
Good question.
I feel like if it's you have to click on it, interact with something on the map, then that's going to cause issues. Be it like, we already know how finicky maps are in PvP. Like, you move slightly and all of a sudden you're like dropping something in the sky, or like you go to click on something and it doesn't happen because you're like whatever. So I worry that if you have to interact with this object on the ground, it's just going to cause issues rather than just running over top of it. And then, like, case in point, the Blessing of the Forge. If you Avenging Wrath, but then don't grab the sacred weapon and imbue your weapon, then it's not going to do anything. So then, at the end of your Avenging Wrath, you're going to be like, oh crap, like I just missed out on all the extra damage or healing or whatever.
Yeah, legit. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah. Pardon me. All right. Can you do the priest? My throat is not happy.
I mean, yeah. To be honest with you, it's probably you're having like an allergic reaction to Blizzard not doing the stuff that I said they need to do. So I get that. I'll defend you.
Thank you.
we are on our penultimate treat. I feel like these could go on forever. They feel the same. This one is probably one of the most talked about. It's the priest tree for disc and holy. And the biggest thing here is the way that premonition replaces power infusion. So actually, this is kind of doing what I suggested, which is replacing an ability that we already have. So I think it's interesting, but we're going to read about it and find out more. So premonition replaces power infusion, and that's a 1-minute cooldown. Divine the future and gain access to a spell that gives you an advantage against your fate. Solace increases your target's healing received by 25% for 10 seconds. Insight increases your target's magic damage dealt by 10% for 10 seconds. Glory increase your target's physical damage dealt by 10% for 10 seconds. So all in all, sounds like a worse version of power infusion so far. Let's go down the left-hand side.
Let's be honest, though. Nobody's going to argue about who gets PI now.
True. Yeah, you can get it whatever you like. It's not just going to be flat haste. It's either, you either give it to a tank for that. I mean, personally, from a healer, PvP healer point of view, you're probably going to go for the increase your target's healing in a 25% for 10 seconds. That's pretty big during a burst cooldown. Anyway, left-hand side, preventative measures increases the damage absorbed by power word shield by 10% and the healing done by prayer of mending by 10%. I mean, that's a disc buff massively anyway. Assured safety, power word shield applies 1 stack of prayer of mending to your target, and prayer mending casts apply a power word shield to your target at 20% effectiveness. I don't know about you, but I feel like that again is a disc buff by far, massively so. Grand Reveal. When your powered shield is fully absorbed or your prayer mending heals, gain a stack of Grand Reveal. At 150 stacks, gain an additional charge of premonition. Ooh, okay, CDR. Interesting. Let's go down the middle then. Increases the duration. So preemptive care increases the duration of atonement by 1%, increases the duration of renew by 3 seconds. I mean, that's all very good. So atonement by 1 second, sorry. So that's increasing the amount of time that you have that this is a quality of life, and I appreciate that. I think that's good. And then you get a choice. Prompt deliverance reduces the cooldown of purify by purify by 2 seconds. That is your
cleanse.
Your cleanse. That is your the thing that removes CC from you. That is kind of nutty. Divine feathers. When an ally walks through your angelic feather, you also grant 100% of its effect. Okay, that's rubbish. You want to get the cooldown on the dispel. Absolutely, 100%. Next one, again, another couple of choices. Perfect Vision reduces the cooldown of premonition by 10 seconds. Okay, it's all right. Versatile divinations. Premonition can now trigger the brilliance and urgency effects. Brilliance restores 5% of your target's maximum mana. Okay, interesting. Urgency increases your target's haste by 12% for 10 seconds. Okay, well, there we go. That's the haste put back in there. There you go. You get 10% damage increase and then 12% haste for 10 seconds. So that's where it's going to thing. I don't know whether or not that they both work, but clearly, you're going to go for the second one. I think that's probably most likely. Going down the right-hand side, waste no time. You get another choice, sorry. Waste no time. Premonition causes your next power word radiance, heal, or prayer of mending to be instant cast and cost 15% less mana. Okay, interesting. So that's a nice little burst window. Miraculous recovery reduces the cooldown of power word life by 3 seconds and allows it to be usable on targets by at 50% health. Okay, interesting. So again, increases the healing done. So if you've got the 25% healing done, that's kind of big. Foreseen circumstances. Pain suppression reduced damage taken by an additional 10%. I'm fairly sure that makes it a 50% wall.
Which now makes it stronger than DK.
Yeah. I don't know whether it is 15%. It might be more. It might be less than that now because of the double charge. It might be 30%. But either way, that's big. Guardian Spirit lasts an additional 2 seconds. That's kind of average, I feel. But the pain suppression one's big. Then you get another choice. Divine Providence increases the duration of your premonition effects by 2 seconds. That's pretty good. So 12 seconds as opposed to 10. Or Fate Bender. Premonition's effect is increased by 30% if the divine spell is different to the previous premonition. That's kind of poop. You definitely want the effects for 2 seconds more. And then your capstone. Premonition has a low chance to grant you clairvoyance. Clairvoyance grants your target and 2 nearby allies all the effects of premonition by 100% effectiveness. So there's a chance that when you press it, someone else, 2 other people get it, but it's a low
Mhm.
chance. So
Yeah, what's a low chance though? Is that 10%?
maybe less, 5% even.
Hmm. I don't know. It's a good question.
A very, very good question. I'm just reading the chat now. Thank you very much, Drew, for being so lovely and kind to me.
There's a little bit of bias going on in chat about whose voice is better to read these off. Just saying.
Yeah, I know. I know. What can I say? I also have a very nice microphone. You also have a very nice microphone. I just think
Yours is better.
I spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
So
You,
I think. Sorry,
yeah,
after you.
what do you think about these?
So I know I think a lot of that's really interesting, but it's clearly disc favored. Absolutely disc favored.
Yeah.
100%. Like it's sort of there's a lot of buffs for shields and things that kind of work from what I understand of discs. Kind of toolkit. It sort of seems to work
Mhm.
more in that favor. There's some really OP stuff in there, like the reduction on dispels is huge. I
Mhm.
think a lot of it's built around kind of buffing things. And I think that's an interesting idea. Like I think there's a lot to work with there. I just really hope this isn't the end product. I really hope they listen to advice given to them by players on what they should do. If I could, like if I had the influence, I really would try and convince them to sort of do my model. I feel like that would be really cool. But I think they've got they kind of got the sort of basics in there for them to actually use it. So
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea that they did with fixing PI, fixing it,
mm,
placing it. I feel like that they kind of had to do that just because of all the issues that players have had on both PvE and PvP about who gets PI and all the division that has happened in communities over that, because some people they have emotional issues when they don't get something they think they deserve. Um, I'm kind of curious though, like yeah, power word shield, prayer of mending. So shield and palm though, like holy priests cast those too, don't they?
well, the shields, yeah, I'm not sure actually whether they do, but I don't think it's nearly as strong as it is for disc
No.
because obviously you put a shield on and that gives you atonement, and then you
Mhm.
blast damage and the atonement heals. So I don't
Yeah.
think it's as good. I honestly don't think it's as good as for Holy. I don't think Holy will take Oracle. You'd probably want to. It seems to favor disc, but as I
Oh yeah.
said, like this will probably change. It will probably change something.
Mhm.
That's how it will always do it. But
We'll
yeah,
see.
that's my thoughts on that. What?
Yeah.
How did you feel about this one?
Um. Again, yeah, definitely favorite disc. I saw some holy stuff where it felt good. My concern is like unknowing the clairvoyance and uh, what the actual proc chance on that is. Like if it's 5% or whatever. Like what's the actual proc rate that's going to turn out to be? Is curious. I'm very curious. Um, I am. I am also curious how. So generally, I've always felt with like disc priests in PvP, because of their like how their mana runs out, they're pretty much on a clock, right? Like those games have a clock time based on how fast their mana goes, and I'm curious if all this other stuff is either going to elongate how long they can heal for, or if in some way it's actually going to overspend their mana depending on depending on what the cost of premonition is, depending on the on how this affects with some of the CDR in that. Um, what's gonna? Because I'm pretty sure I saw some CDR there. Am I mistaken? No, no,
Uh,
no.
is
Sorry,
there?
there was no CDR. Um, I guess yeah. So I guess sorry, the increased duration of atonement and the duration of renew. That's a preemptive care. So actually, yeah. So I'm thinking
Grand
reducing
reveal.
their CDR and purify there.
Yeah, CDR and Purified, but you also got Grand Reveal, which gives you an
Mhm.
additional stack of additional charge of premonition, which again is basically CDR in a way. So if you
Yeah,
use
true.
it and you
True,
suddenly
true.
you get those stacks, then you've got it back. So
Yeah. Oh, and then there's the vision, which reduces premonition by 10 seconds again. So that stuff might actually make them spend more mana, so then they have a shorter time frame. So again, they may change how disc works in the War Within, but it's just kind of something I'm thinking about is how this is going to change the fundamentals of how a disc priest plays in PvP. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting. All right. What's the next one here? Warrior. Can you tell us about Mountain Thane?
Mountain Thane. This is clearly a Wild Hammer reference here, but let's go for it. So Lightning Strikes is the main one here. Damaging enemies with Thunderclap, Revenge, Raging Blow, or Execute has a 10% chance to also strike one with a lightning bolt, dealing moderate nature damage. Lightning strikes occur 50% more during Avatar. Okay, so that's the kind of main one. That's the kind of concept we're working for. Going down the left-hand side, Call of Thunder. For protection, Storm Strike or nature damage your abilities deal is increased by 5%, and Storm Strike damage ignores armor. Thunderclap damage increased by 50%. For Fury, Storm Strike or nature damage your abilities deal is increased by 5%. Storm Strike ignores armor. Thunderclap increased by 50% and it generates 5 rage. Improved Whirlwind and Meat Cleaver now improve Thunderclap as well. Whirlwind, okay. Going down, you've got Thunderblast, Shield Slam, and Bloodthirst have a 20% chance to grant you Thunderblast, stacking up to 2 charges. Thunderblast is your next Thunderclap becomes a Thunderblast that deals Storm Strike damage. Right, okay. And then at the bottom, you have a choice. So Steadfast as the peaks. Victory Rush increases your maximum health by 10% for 5 seconds. And keep your feet on the ground. Thunderblast reduces damage you take by 4% for 5 seconds. Okay, interesting. I mean, so far, these are pretty rubbish. I don't like them. They aren't the best.
No.
Going down the middle, Ground Current. Lightning Strikes also deal low damage to enemies near their target. Damage reduced beyond 5 targets. I mean, again, awful. Numbered in the middle of that, you got another couple of choices. Storm Shield, so intervening a target grants them a shield for 5 seconds that absorbs magic damage equal to 3 times your armor. Awful. Storm Bolts. Storm Bolt also hits 2 additional nearby targets, stunning them for 2 seconds. Okay, I mean, this is an AoE Storm Bolt, so that could be interesting. Going down one more, again, another couple of choices. Gathering Clouds, your attacks trigger Lightning Strikes 15% more often, or Thorim's Might. Lightning Strikes generate 3 rage. Revenge, Raging Blow, and Execute damage increased by 15%. Okay, that's just flat damage increase. Then on the right-hand side, you've got Strength of the Mountain, so Shield Slam damage increased by 20%, or Bloodthirst and Rampage damage increased by 10%. Again, flat boost. You then got Choice, Flashing Skies, Chance for Lightning Strikes to critically strike is increased by 5%, and their critical strike damage is increased by 10%. That could be good. Valajar training, Lightning Strikes reduce the cooldown of Ravager by 0.5%. Again, that's PvE, that last one. But yeah, the first one sounds interesting. Finally, on the right-hand side, Lightning Strikes have a 20% chance to make your next 2 Shield Slams or Bloodthirst have no cooldown. So again, very minimal. I'm not as pumped by this warrior spec, but let's have a look at the capstone here. Avatar of the Storm. Casting Avatar grants you 2 charges of Thunderblast and resets the cooldown of Thunderclap. Whilst Avatar is not active, Lightning Strikes have a 10% chance to grant you Avatar for 4 seconds. That's pretty good. Thunderblast, as we explained before, is your next Thunderclap becomes a Thunderblast. This all seems very average to me. I'm not nearly blown away. There's not nearly as much in this last one, but it's definitely an interesting one for sure.
Yeah. I have to admit, this seems like it feels like they're trying to make a warrior feel like they're Thor, which seems kind of cool overall. I feel like this would be amazing if it also included like uh some sort of legendary hammer with the War Within, because then like it would totally be warrior esque.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not. But yeah, but warriors, you always see them either the sword and board or double swords, right? Like, when was the last time you saw Thor running, or like some lightning warrior running around with double swords? Other than what? Maybe Maybe during Mop, I guess. What was it? That lightning dungeon, lightning raid there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I know which one you mean.
yeah, that one.
The one.
Yeah, I don't even know if he had swords or not. Maybe he did. I think he had double. He had a stone sword, right? Because there's all stone guys. Anyway, I like the idea. The the numbers aren't wooing me though. I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah,
Unless
I'm not feeling it
yeah.
either.
Unless Warrior's going to be strong to begin with, in which case the numbers don't have to be very high.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it's as I don't know. It just doesn't feel. It doesn't seem to be feeling as impressive
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah. Ooh. Yes. Dark Iron Dwarf Warrior running around with double war hammers as a thunder striking. Yeah. I don't know. I I guess my biggest fear of this is if you're running around as a fury doing this, also like the amount of AoE you're doing, you like you're gonna have to. This is probably gonna be like a double, like two melee, 2v2. I could definitely see that. I could definitely see this working in BG format where they're in the scrum and just like storm bolting and calling a thunder and um was thunderclapping the heck out of people and stuff like that. Like that is going to be something I can definitely see this in that kind of AOE, but I'm not seeing this in strategic threes or two, like yeah, maybe twos, double damage, but I'm not seeing it in threes. Uh, I feel like this is going to be too problematic with all the AOE stuff going on.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I don't know. I just think it doesn't. It just it seems a bit underwhelming for me.
Hmm.
That's all.
Well, thankfully, actually, thankfully, um, thankfully, these are not all of the different trees, the different heroic items that they come up with.
Hmm.
There's still, I mean, there's still a bunch others that need to be produced. I think we pretty much only one per spec, with the exception of what was it? Um, is Druid, and that second one it wasn't even complete. So still lots of work they're doing. Lots of iteration. Maybe they'll listen to us, maybe they won't. We'll see. Um I think though, uh Jake,
Hmm.
what's one thing for the war within?
Mm.
What's one thing you would change?
You know what I'm going to say. I've been saying it the
More
entire time.
more passives.
Change these hero talents to be one ability that's swapped and changed, and then one ultimate ability, and build the hero buffs off that, and then going forwards build on that smaller little tree. Because I'm telling you, people don't mind if there's a few extra bits and pieces, kind of like in Legion. Do you remember that everyone loves Legion? In
Mhm.
Legion they added like Stormkeeper and those other really cool abilities
Yep.
everyone really liked, like Apocalypse as well, that everyone really liked, that was really cool, and you kind of built around those. That was awesome. Do that.
Yeah. I I can't disagree with you, man. Uh,
Mm.
I feel like one thing that the lost from Legion with we had those epic artifacts and we built them and we put a whole bunch of artifact power into them and we made these things awesome. And then the expansion ended and we just walked away from all these really awesome abilities. I find there's some stuff that they could definitely, if they're gonna copy and paste stuff, let's maybe pull from there. you know, maybe don't go back so far as six expansions. Um,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. What's the one thing I would change though, Jake?
Yeah. You tell me.
I I I would like to see within these trees maybe um more of a hybrid where instead of like a tree being clearly disc or clearly holy or something like that. I can't say that I didn't feel like any tree really kind of took those two specs and kind of melded them together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like everything was you're still going to be a prot warrior, or you're still going to be a fury warrior, you're still going to be a disc priest, you're still going to be a balanced druid. I'm kind of wondering if they really want to do this and truly make something epic. I wonder if there's a way to like meld it so you're like a a tankier fury warrior, or a more holy disc priest, or um a more a bloody unholy DK. Like try to get those bring abilities to be closer to each other.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I feel like that's a good idea as well.
Not Yeah. Okay. Well, on that, uh, we're running a little late here. I'm sorry. I know
I'm crying. I'm crying inside.
it's a good
We
thing
were
you had a bunch of coffee. Not
yeah, we were joking earlier because, as I said to Gerissar before, I've been going to bed this entire week about an hour before we normally do the podcast. At least for me, being on British time,
Mhm.
and I had to take a lot of caffeine to make sure that it did not happen tonight. But as a joke, obviously, we're thinking we're going to we're getting through the little bits of the the new hero talents, and you'd be like, "So, what do you think about the Keeper of the Grove?" And I'd be, yeah, your treants," and kind of that's the sort of thing that would be happening.
No, instead you carried the energy. You definitely did. But let's talk about PvP news instead of what you've been up to this week.
All right. Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right, PvP news. So, Arena World Cup, the World Championship. So, Cup number 1, that happened a couple weekends ago. So, Hula Bang won on the EU and the Move won on NA. This was a really special one considering Hula Bang was completely unknown. Like
Absolutely.
their comp was like nobody was prepared for it. Nobody really knew what to expect. It was a bit of a cheesy comp, like they even admit it. But all that to say, what a phenomenal cup. If you haven't watched the VODs on that, I highly recommend you go back and watch it. Did you happen to catch any of it live or watch any of the VODs there, Jake?
I watched the entire thing, both cups. It was amazing.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it.
What was your favorite part of Cup 1?
I really do have to. To be honest, with you, when Echo lost, to be honest, that was the thing. Like Echo are an incredible team, and I think what's really underestimated is the fact that there are some fantastic players out there that can compete with the best, and all it requires is a little bit of a kind of out of the meta comp with some strong specs to kind of take it there. And I think that's what Hula Bang did. They played I think it was Sub Rogue, Windwalker, Holy Priest.
Yeah.
So really strange comp, and they just sort of seemed to carry them all the way there. Now, obviously, the grand final was two basically unknown teams versus one another, Lava and them. I'm fairly sure,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a big sort of clash. Whereas the kind of NA one is kind of the Titans versus the Titans, as it were.
Yeah.
But I was really glad to see the move do so well. It's just a shame that they kind of fell off a little bit in the second cup. But I think that's the problem. People kind of adapted to what they'd experienced in the first cup, and I don't think the move necessarily adapted with them.
True.
But it was obviously good to see Liquid then take it for NA.
Yeah.
But when you look at this, you got Chibako Tensei and then Hula Bang. Like, there's no Echo. This is a complete meta shakeup for EU, which is
Yep.
fantastic. And I think also I'd like to take the opportunity to say to people that have been attacking Lontar specifically in Echo, they're completely wrong. This is a step up of people across the board. Lontar is
What?
a fan. Yeah, they've been really really horrible to him, and
No.
that's just not at all the kind of attitude to take at all. The competition has just simply stepped up
Mhm.
across the board. It's been intense. I don't think even Echo, let's say you added Meh back onto the roster, I don't think they would have done it anyway. I
Mhm.
think just the step up has been insane. And finally, there
Yeah.
is competency that can kind of take them on, which is the main thing. So
Yeah.
I really wouldn't blame anyone. It's just the quality has improved.
I agree. I really hope none of our listeners are the ones that are attacking Lontar. He is a phenomenal healer. You're right, though, is that the caliber of all the competitors these past two cups have been absolutely phenomenal. Seeing people come out of like completely out of the sidelines and taking chunks out of all of them, not just Echo. I mean, the Move were losing games, Liquid were losing games. Like there's some caliber all the way across there. Um, I will give. I know it's been talked about a bunch already. I got to give a huge shout out to that Windwalker Gum for winning the essentially the 2v1.
That was cool. That was
That was,
also really cool.
that was so crazy, and I love Zeke. Zeke, I mean, I hope to have him on the podcast and talk about Frosty case sometime. But yeah, uh, that whole match and just how it all went down just blew my mind. I was jumping up and down. My wife and my daughter were wondering what was wrong with me. It was all right. So on that, yeah. So cup number 2, Chibaku Tensei won on the EU, Liquid won on the NA. So that said, this settled out the points for the clash that we're going to see. We're talking about on the 1st of March, and it's going to start with a gauntlet. That said, the clash is going to be mixed region. It's not going to be NA or EU. It's together. It looks like it's going to be held on the LAN, if I understand it correctly. So it's going to be, I think it's a little bit of seeding, or maybe it'll be random as to which server it starts on for Nagrand. But then after that, I believe the intent is for it to move to the loser server, so the loser gets ping advantage. So that'll be a different way of doing it, but definitely bringing back the NA to EU thing. Hot fixes. Hot fixes are always the thing. So with that, the most recent ones were actually put out yesterday. Most of it has been, surprise, surprise, PvE. Over on the PvP, well, PvE and PvP for Season of Discovery, there's been some things there. So the Blood Moon now increases the health of participants by 30%. So that's PvP. Resurrection of chained spirits during the Blood Moon also grants players 100% of their mana. Cool. The Blood Moon of Verse Zandalari missionaries will now ward players in the far off lands of Ratchet, Tearsfall Glade, and Duskwood. Not sure what that's about, but I'm sure it's to help them out. And then there's been some other stuff with the Blood Moon. Anyways, yeah. That said, a few other fixes, druids, paladins, priests. It all looks like just some bugs and stuff they've been fixing. That's about it. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was PvP. Help me, Jake. What else is PvP that is being fixed or updated?
Don't think there is, to be honest. It's been very quiet, so nothing I could see, at least retail point of view. So
yeah. Oh, there's a little thing about grounding totems that was done back on the 8th for Shaman. I think that's a bit of a fix. But I think that's about it. All right. Well, so be it. All right. So that included the Blood Moon changes that we're going to talk about doing. So that was put up earlier. And actually, speaking of class tuning, there's actually it's not working for me now. There's more tuning that was announced. It's going to happen on the 20th for Season of Discovery. So it looks like they're doing a bunch more tuning. Probably, I feel like a lot of this is because of the runes. I feel like the additional runes they've added in Phase 2 is causing a bunch of stuff to need tweaking.
definitely, yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And then, did you see the possible Season 4 Glad Mount we're getting for Dragonflight?
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of them. I think I saw that before when it got leaked. So it's a really cool look.
So if anybody's wondering, there is a possible Violet Gladiators Drake that was data mined out of the PTR. So it looks really cool. It's essentially a purple Drake. I don't know. Looks pretty. It looks really awesome. It's nothing confirmed though. They don't know for certain if it's our Drake that we're gonna get. I'd say I think it's a pretty safe bet though. I think it's pretty safe.
I hope so, because it looks awesome.
Are you gonna push for Glad just for that mount?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Will you carry me?
No, I can't cross region. Sorry.
Damn
Sorry,
it!
my dude.
Damn it, Jake.
I apologize.
I should actually, sorry, I should roll back one little thing. AWC Cup 2. You didn't see us, but we actually competed. There was a technically PvP group for the Cup 2. Mostly just for the banner, but it was myself, Mortai, and our one and only community outreach person, Queen of Murlocs. She was playing, she's playing Guardian Druid. It was the wag. It was Guardian Druid, Ret Paladin, Disc Priest was the comp we were playing.
Terrible. I'm really angry at that. I'm really angry to hear that.
It was fun. That's all I have to say. It was fun. All right. Speaking of fun, do you have any shout outs you want to give there, Jake?
Oof. I've shouted out. I keep saying this every single week. I've shouted out so many people. Let me think. Who do I want to shout out? There's got to be someone. I am going to shout out. I'm going to shout out. I'm going to shout out Noodle. Noodle DK on Twitter. I'm shouting out Noodle, who's had serious amounts of grief for no reason on Twitter, despite being very amusing and keeping us all entertained.
Yes.
Hope you're doing all right, buddy. Hope you're fine. And hope you're just living in the free world.
Yeah.
Living the vida loca.
It's not really PvP related, but I guess we should probably mention it. Is for anybody who doesn't know, Noodle DK on Twitter for fun on a stream decided and then posted it. Decided to post a tier list of e-girls, and everybody that was put onto it agreed to be put on it. It wasn't sexual at all. It was talking about their interactions and community stuff and whatnot, right? And then a bunch of people grabbed onto it, and then there was threats about doxing Noodle. So then Noodle actually closed his account on Twitter and a bunch of other spots so that people couldn't find him and possibly dox him and whatnot. So it's very unfortunate what happened to him. Out of everything, it was completely it was benign. It was all in good fun. But then a bunch of people decided to turn it into, politicize it and turn it into something way, way more than it was. And it was pretty crazy. Anyway, I really hope I hope the storm blows over quickly and Noodle's able to come back. I personally love the guy. He as much as some of the stuff he puts on kind of seems a little like, really, dude. If you use it in like the joking manner that it pretty much seems, and just playfulness, that's all it really seems to be. So it's I think it has died down. Yeah, I give it another week and hopefully he'll be back. But yeah, such is the rage of the internet. It's a 5-second wave of hate, and then on to the next whatever. Let the armchair lawyers and warriors get on to their next whatever they wanted. Thumb down or thumb up. I think for myself, I am going to give a shout out. Actually, this is going to be a preemptive shout out. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Drew Dynamite, and Eddie Lal. They both agreed to join us in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about the Battleground Blitz and RBGs. So we're going to have a good episode talking about those two parts of the game, and maybe see where that will take us into the War Within. So, or at least into season 4. So that's my shout out. I agree. I'm happy that they agreed to be able to do that, and we'll see what that conversation is. We'll welcome them with open arms next week. Speaking of open arms, Jake, can you lead our listeners into where they can find us?
Absolutely, I can. So you can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP, or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions on the Bonus Roll Productions Discord. Also, you can visit the Bonus Roll website to find the podcast directory with us and many other great shows at www.bonusroll.gg. This directory also has a review system, so head on over there and tell everyone what you think of your favorite shows, including our own.
Indeed. And as always, links for everything we talked about are going to be in the show notes. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.